Over to you.
We are excited to report on some progress of some of our employees, and we have a great program here where we pay tuition for employees that wish to, further their education, and we try to recognize them. We've had some real success stories, and we've also, we got a young man that started here and as an engineer, started out working, working in ditches with a shovel, and as an engineer working in ditches a different way. But also our leadership, it's important that they focus on professional development. It's something that we support, we fund, and really we expect our leaders to continue through their career to get better and better and better. And so I'd like to recognize 3 of our employees that just recently completed a program in Auburn that deals with local government professional management. It's actually that certificate, and it's a 5 different classes they go to over a certain amount of time that lasts 2 days each. But it's a big commitment. It's very important, and I just appreciate them taking time out of their work day and to actually had to leave the city to do this. And I think it's just important that we have individuals like that because it's a big business, and it's important that we follow great business practices when we're operating this very, very fine city. So I'd like to recognize Tina Bolt and Mr. Alan Rice and Mr. Jihad Al-Daka. If they would come up and let's take a picture, and I'd appreciate if everyone just give them a big hand for their accomplishment. And we are excited to have our third restaurant week, third annual restaurant week. Kicked it off last week at the Hoover Met. J.J. Pruitt did a great job, live and in color there. I think we got there about 7 o'clock last week, and through WBRC had 3 segments where he highlighted. There were about 10, 11 local restaurants that were at the Med, and they showcased their food, and it was pretty diverse in terms of the type of food that was there, and it was a great little experience. So it's coinciding this time with the World Games, which seems kind of fitting that we would run our restaurant week during that time. We have people from all over the world, and we say often that you can get the food of the world right here in Hoover, Alabama. So we would like to have Tony Herrera Bass from the Hoover Chamber come up, David Cohen, Whole Scoop, who is also chair of the Hoover Restaurant Alliance, David Custer, McLeod Software, who is the Hoover Chamber chairman, Paul Dangle. Let me see, there's Paul. Paul is the past chair of Hoover Chamber, and Sandy Dangle, who is representing Vivian Moore State Farm Agency. If they would come up, and we would like to present that. And all else, Tony, that you want to invite up, because it's a big group. It takes a lot of folks to do that. You are the C of the proclamation. I'm going to squeeze right in between this. Our city attorney is going to read this.
Whereas Hoover Restaurant Week 2022 encourages Hoover residents and visitors to discover the city's diverse culinary heritage and experience Southern hospitality Hoover style. And whereas Hoover's culinary offerings include farm-to-table freshness, comfort food, international fare, and a selection of craft brews, artisan wines, and distilled spirits. And whereas last year 35 restaurants participated and raised over $3,000 for Hoover charities, including Hoover Helps. And whereas Hoover Restaurant Week is coinciding with the World Games 2022, and whereas Hoover is expecting tens of thousands of hungry spectators to visit Hoover and watch the international softball games at the Hoover Met Complex, and whereas this event provides a unique opportunity to support and showcase the diverse dining experience at our local dining establishments throughout the city, the world is coming to Hoover. Let's set the table. Now, therefore, I, Frank V. Burcato, Mayor of the City of Hoover, do hereby proclaim July 7th through 17th, 2022 as Hoover Restaurant Week in the City of Hoover, and encourage all citizens to join me in this observance, and that the City of Hoover and its City Council are committed to the continued support of Hoover Restaurant Week and Hoover Restaurants.
Hoover Restaurant Week would like to thank the mayor and the city council for their ongoing support, not just financially, but being there at 7 o'clock in the morning and having to taste food from 15 different restaurants. It's a tough job, and we appreciate you being there. We're real excited about this year, how it coincides with the World Games. We prepared our restaurants to give the best hospitality that we can, Hoover-style Southern hospitality. We've worked at it. We're ready for them. We're excited about the almost 40 restaurants that are involved this year. Some new people have stepped up. We have some great sponsors along with the Chamber and Cisco Foods, and Vivian Mora is involved. Buffalo Rock, WBRC, JJ Pruitt did a great job. Enjoy Hoover. We had a great planning group of people who you saw today who did a great job. Mark and his team at Content Logistics came up with those wonderful phrases that I can hold on to, something like, you know, the world's come to Hoover, let's set the table. And we are ready for them. And that's a phrase that we can hold on to. So I want to thank the council and the mayor for recognizing us and supporting us throughout this year and on to next year. Thank you.
Mr. Posey, I believe you have a special guest in the chamber you'd like to recognize.
Yes, sir, I do. The Sons of the American Revolution is a group that is the descendants of people who fought in the American Revolution. And the way you do that is you go through genealogy and prove that you're related to certain people that fought in the Revolution. And it could be 1, it could be 20. I mean, it's amazing how big that war was and how many people were even just in Alabama that fought in that war or were from South Carolina and ended up in Alabama like my ancestors did. So one of the things that this group does, obviously, you know, yesterday was a big day with Independence Day for this group, is that they give a flag certificate out to businesses, municipalities, anybody that really that flies a flag. It has to meet certain criteria. And as you know, out front, when you drove in, Hoover flies the flag proudly out in front of our city hall. So my dad, C.W. Posey Jr., is here to present a flag certificate to the city of Hoover, to the mayor.
Thank you, son. I'm Curtis Posey Jr. I am past president of, well, I need to tell you where I live, right? I live at 1831 Lemon Mint Circle in River Chase. I'm past president of the Alabama Society Sons of the American Revolution and a national trustee. I'm also past president of the Alabama Society War of 1812. And yesterday we celebrated our birthday. And as Kurt has already said, millions, literally millions of people across this nation and around the world have studied their ancestry to prove their lineage to patriots of these two wars. The first war established the freedom. The second war maintained it. So everybody that I know who has been through this, it's a grueling way to do things, but it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, it takes several things to prove. And for each one of these stars, and for this main one right here, those are all our ancestors that fought in the Revolutionary War. My Revolutionary War patriot and Kurt's was Hezekiah Posey. His War of 1812 patriot was Joseph Harrison Posey, who was the son of Hezekiah. So we have a tradition going. But what I wanted to do today, I want to present this certificate of commendation not only to this group, I want to present it to the city of Hoover. Because as I have traveled around the city of Hoover, all the way from here to Ross Bridge, back to Greystone and all over, mainly putting out campaign signs. But as I did that, I was amazed at how many people, citizens, are flying flags at their homes. Businesses are flying flags very proudly. And of course, the City Hall here has always maintained this flag as long as I can remember. And it has to be properly done. But in order for the Sons of the American Revolution and all of the people involved in it to commend those people, that's what this is for. And we have given these commendations to the fire department, to the police department, and to several of the businesses around the city over the past few years that I have been doing this. So this is what it says. National Society of the Sons of the American Revolution certificate of commendation presented to the city of Hoover, Alabama, in recognition of exemplary patriotism in the display of the flag of the United States of America, which is our symbol of freedom. And also, I heard from a fairly reliable source that the mayor has a collection of challenge coins. It's fairly reliable. I have one for you, sir, to keep up the good work. Time out.
Thank you, Mr. Posey. I believe Ms. Bolt has an update on our April financials. Ms. Bolt?
Okay, you should have in your packet the complete set of financials. I'm just going to go over a quick presentation tonight. So this is for the period ending April 30th, 2022. This is the 7th month of the fiscal year, and we should expect to see 58% of our annual budget either in revenue or expenditures. So as you're looking, you will see our total revenues equaled for year-to-date is 98.7%. We are at 70% of our revenues, which is definitely trending above what we would expect for 58% of the 7th month. And we budgeted at $141.2 million. Our total expenditures for year-to-date were 62.3 or 49.4% of budget, and other sources or uses, and this is a use of $3.6 million, which we had expected to see a little bit more than that this time as well. So this gives us a net change in financials is $32.7 million. As you can see, looking at this, this is trending as good as last year, which was a phenomenal year for us. So if we were to close the year today and add that to our fund balance would be at $114.9 million, which gives us 9.6 months reserve. And since we just created that policy to have 6 months, that would mean we would have to make some decisions about what we wanted to do with that. Put some in the, of course, the fiscal stabilization or budget stabilization, or do something else with it. Okay, it's not clicking, Wendy. Thank you. So this is just a breakdown of our revenues. You can see our total sales and taxes of 65% of budget, which is above the 58%, coming in at $60.9 million. Other taxes are at $24.8 million or 91.8% of budget. Total licenses and permits are at $8.2 million or 86.3% of budget. Intergovernmental are at $1.2 million or 44.4% of budget. Total fines and forfeitures are $428,000, which is 89.6% of budget. Total interest, we are seeing a negative amount of that. That is because we are required by GASB standards to mark to market, and we do that every month so that we don't take such a big hit at the end of the year, because we are required to report that in our annual financials. So we are not seeing, even though we are seeing better interest than we did based upon some of the investments that we have looked at, we are still seeing that market not readjusting. For May, not for May, for June, you will actually see, we will see a positive amount for the first time in this fiscal year. Other revenues are $4.6 million or 64.1%, and that gives us the grand total of the $98.7 million in revenues. So this is a breakdown of just our taxes from last year to this year. So our general sales tax is trending actually even higher than we anticipated, and higher than we saw from last year, which is $46 million compared to the 42 from last year, which is an increase of $4.1 million. You can see some of our other taxes are decreasing. Casual sales tax is at $302,000, which is down $49,000 from last year. Seller's use tax is down $358,000. Consumer's use tax is down $146,000, and SSUT continues to grow at $165,000 difference from last year. So that being said, our tax revenue is still increased by $3.7 million. As you can see that some of the trends in our market, as our market continues to trend down, and as you look at market, you're going to see that consumer spending is definitely starting to slow, and I project that will continue throughout the remainder of this year. I don't know that we'll have as good a year as we did last year, but I do predict that we'll have a good year. But I do think some of those policies that we just put in place will definitely be needed in the next coming year, in 2023. Any questions?
Anyone have a question for Ms. Bolt? I think you alluded to it there in the final part of your presentation, but now that we're in the first part, I guess, of the fourth quarter of this current fiscal year, there are typically, of course, we're seeing a slowdown in, I think, consumer spending nationwide, but am I not correct that there's usually some payables that come due in that fourth quarter that we typically don't see in the first 3 quarters of the fiscal year? And our expenditures typically go up a little bit in this fourth quarter?
They do. We just actually made some debt payments, so you'll see that in there as well as we get into, the July financials. You'll see that in there as well.
Yep.
So, yes, so definitely our debt, we usually have some debt.
Right.
Well, it's usually due actually October and then sometime around March, and then we have this one that's due June.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Bolt.
Thank you.
We have 3 other special guests I'd like to recognize in the chamber tonight. Each year, Wallace Jordan invites law students from throughout the country to come and join their firm for a summer as clerks, and we're honored tonight to have Maggie Donlin, Lamar Dukes, and Katie Lee Crockett with us. If each of you 3 would stand up and be recognized, please. We're honored to have all 3 of you here and appreciate very much your attendance and participation. We'll now move to our consent agenda. The consent agenda is presented as items that are deemed non-controversial, and we will take these all as one block vote. I would ask members of the body if they see an item listed as numbers 6 through 9 on the consent agenda that they would like moved to the regular agenda, please let me know. Is there a member of the public here that is here to speak on agenda items 6 through 9? If so, we'll be happy to move that to the regular agenda. Seeing none, we will read each of the items, have a reading by the city attorney, and then we'll entertain a motion. Mr. Corley.
So item 6 is the approval of minutes, which is the minutes for June 20th, 22 work session and June 20th, 22 council meeting. Resolution number 6742-22 authorizes the acceptance of the bid of Southeastern Seal Coating in the amount of $363,978 for the Russet Woods Sidewalk Project, bid number 22-012, and authorizes Mayor Brocato to execute an agreement for the same. Resolution 674322 authorizes the acceptance of public improvements within the public right-of-way at the location recorded in the office of the Judge of Probate of Jefferson County, Alabama, at Ross Bridge, Parcel G, Map Book 43, page number 20. Resolution 674622 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into a community infrastructure agreement with Jefferson County, Alabama for the improvements at Russet Wood Community Park and the installation of pickleball courts at the Hoover Met Complex.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now move to our regular agenda, beginning with item number 10, resolution number 6741-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the Birmingham Water Works to install 12 fire hydrants in the locations set forth in the ordinance.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6741-22.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the body? Any questions or comments from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 11 is resolution number 6745-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and/or other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of said nuisance pursuant to Alabama law at 3240 Galleria Circle, Hoover, Alabama 35244.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6745-22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Martin, welcome back.
Good evening. Good to be with you guys. As you see, we've been able to reduce the number of locations on this resolution to the one before you at 3240 Galleria Circle. After notifying the owner of this issue, we have not had the owner go out and take care of it themselves. So we bring this before you tonight to declare a nuisance.
Any questions for Mr. Martin? Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from members of the audience? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 12, I believe we will entertain a motion to withdraw. It's ordinance number 22-2569.
Yeah, yes, Mr. President, I move to withdraw ordinance number 22-2569. The clerk informed us that the applicant had withdrawn the application.
Second.
We have a motion and second for withdrawal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now have two first readings with no vote tonight, but we'll set a public hearing for July 18th to have a second reading and potential vote, beginning with item number 13, resolution number 6740-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution grants conditional use approval to allow for operation as an event facility to include live entertainment within the premises on the property located at 2970 Lorna Road, Hoover, Alabama, with the conditions attached as Exhibit 2 to the resolution.
Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mr. President, we have a conditional use application. It's brought to us by Mr. Gary Beard, owner of the events facility on Little Valley Road. And this property is adjacent to the existing event facility. Mr. Beard would like to convert this property, which has been several things over its lifespan, would like to convert it into an additional event space called the Coach House. This particular application included landscape plan, as well as a plan to overhaul the exterior appearance of the building, something that I believe will be a great addition to that corridor along Lorna Road. Planning Commission reviewed the application and recommends favorably on this conditional use application with two conditions. Those conditions are included in Exhibit 2. One, that the property is redeveloped in substantial conformity to the site and elevation plans submitted. And number 2, before any additions are considered for the building on this site, a parking analysis should be performed.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Does any member have a question for Mr. Martin? Tonight, of course, we'll come back together and see if any updates have been made and have a public hearing on the 18th. Item number 14 is ordinance number 22-2571. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance amends Hoover Ordinance Number 263, entitled The Zoning Ordinance of the City of Hoover, Alabama, to rezone the property shown on Exhibit A, aerial location map from Planned Office PO to PR1, or Planned Single Family Residential District.
Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mr. President, this is an application, in essence, to create a residential zone within the International Park PUD. That is something that is not in existence as of today. It would be a new type of addition to International Park, but one that the Planning Commission reviewed and found favorably and recommended favorably upon. This particular PUD amendment would take approximately 8 acres on the backside of the International Park PUD. If you're all the way to the Cahaba River side of the PUD, you'll notice that there has been a couple of properties developed with parking lots and building pads, and also you have the former event center facility. So this would actually be on the opposite side of that private drive leading up to the former events facility. The 8 acres in this PUD would be eventually split to approximately 6 acres and 2 acres. On the 6 acres, you would have up to 7 townhomes, and on the remaining acreage, you would have 1 single-family detached dwelling. The PUD calls for a maximum of 8 dwellings in this residential area. Any attempt to add more units to that would require a PUD amendment, which the Planning Commission and this body would have to approve. That is not the intention of the developer, to put more than those 8 total units on the site. The planned unit development amendment, again, creates a PR1 planned residential zone for this acreage between 8 and 9 acres, and then has development criteria for the townhomes as well as the single-family detached lot. Planning Commission recommended in favor of this PUD amendment with one condition, and that the applicant incorporate into the plan unit development amendment those comments that were shared from staff to the applicant back on June 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. I believe Mr. Mosley is with us tonight as well, and he has given each of the members a binder with a full copy of the plan. If anyone has questions for Mr. Martin tonight or Mr. Mosley, I'm sure they'd be happy to entertain those.
I have a couple quick questions. So this document, Mr. Mosley, reflects the Exhibit B, the updates with all the things we talked about in planning zoning? Correct. Okay, all right. And Mr. Martin, one thing, next meeting when we actually vote on this, it's a little unconventional, the proximity to the commercial space. Some residents or some tenants of the commercial space had asked that we put on the record what they can do with outdoor music there, just to make sure that's on the record. It was a lot of back and forth, the discussion on that. I think there was some concern, but they just want to make sure that's on the record. And if so, we could have that next time. So,
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. I'd ask the members if they have any comments tonight. I'd like to just remind everyone that the World Games kicks off with opening ceremonies on Thursday night. It really kicked off in earnest here last Thursday night when Councilman McClinton hosted an outstanding event to really put Hoover's best foot forward in welcoming leaders from around the metro area and leaders of the World Games organization to Hoover. Councilman McClinton, thank you for doing that. That was an outstanding job. Tomorrow, beginning at 1 o'clock, Old Glory Relay, as it's called, will come through the city of Hoover. This is a relay that is carrying the flag of the United States and the World Games flag from Washington, D.C. to Birmingham, Alabama. It began about 3 or 4 weeks ago in D.C., and that flag has been hand-carried all the way down here, and it's probably in Tuscaloosa tonight, I'd guess, Mayor, making its way up here. But at 1 o'clock tomorrow, it'll arrive here at City Hall. Mayor Bucato will accept that flag, and he will transport it up Highway 31, and a series of individuals from the police department to some of our local athletic teams, our own Roy Brook, and then finally, I'll have the honor of carrying it on its final leg to Vestavia City Hall. I'd like to thank Ms. Melanie Posey-Joseph for all the hard work she has put into this. This is a tremendous effort to organize and coordinate all that. But beginning at 1 o'clock tomorrow, Mayor Bucato will accept that flag, and it'll go to Vestavia City Hall, ending up there 3.6 miles from here. So if you want to run all 3.6, you're more than welcome to. Or if you want to run a part of it or walk a part of it, you're welcome to. And I know the mayor would welcome you to do that. Any other questions or comments? Any public comments tonight? Yes, sir. If you could come down and give us your name and address, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
My name is Matt Daniels, live at 121 Pine Rock Lane. I'm sure most of y'all know why I'm here. It's the continuance issue of the failure to enforce the ordinance regarding commercial trash pickup at businesses before 7 o'clock in the morning throughout the city. This morning I was woken up at 5 o'clock this morning. I was woken up at 5 o'clock hour last week before that as well. I would actually like to thank Alan Rice. I don't know if he's in here, but after the last time I was here, he actually did pick up the torch and made a little bit of progress. Y'all made one stop, and it stopped for about 2 weeks. The drivers, started testing the waters, realized that there wasn't going to be any further enforcement, and we're back to where we began. I feel that maybe there's a misunderstanding as to how small or how large of a problem this really is. I would encourage each of you, get up early one morning, get in your car about 6 o'clock in the morning, drive down 150, drive down Lorna Road, drive down 31, and take a look and see how many garbage trucks there are all throughout the city. The other morning, I got up early, I went to the grocery store 2 miles from my house, 2 miles back, 4 miles total. I saw 4 trucks, 2 from Republic, one from Amwaste and one from another company. I saw 2 of those pull into businesses to pick up. That means this is not an issue that's just affecting my neighborhood. Take a look at a map. Look at how many houses are within 300 or 400 feet of businesses all throughout the city of Hoover. There's hundreds of them. If you figure 3 or 4 people per house, that's thousands of residents that are suffering on this issue. Guys, it's time to do something. Last time I was here Councilman Light, I believe you said that Mr. Daniels has been more than patient. It's time for actions or something to that effect. Stopping the drivers at single businesses is not an effective way to combat this. As soon as they change drivers, we're back to square one. So, I'd like to offer a solution. Y'all know who's allowed to pick up trash? Pick up a phone, call the businesses and say, hey guys, we're gonna start enforcing this. We're giving you a little bit of a heads up. Starting next week, we're gonna start pulling your drivers over. And then follow through with that the following week. My understanding is that the police are supposed to be stopping these drivers throughout the city. Actually stop them. Stop ignoring the trucks. Just pull them over. If you see a truck going through there, pull in behind them. As soon as they pull into a business, hit the lights and say, hey, we're giving you a little bit of a fair warning. If you continue to do this, we're gonna start issuing fines. And then follow through with that. Actually start enforcing fines. As soon as that starts, as soon as there's actual consequences, those drivers are gonna go back to their places of business and they're gonna tell their coworkers. It will stop, and it won't just stop for my neighborhood. It'll stop for everybody. You've got an opportunity to make life better for a lot of citizens of Hoovers, and I urge you to please take that opportunity. Help us out. Allow us to sleep in our own houses until our alarm clocks go off, please.
Mr. Rice, I think that is an incredibly fair ask. I appreciate your opinion on that.
Yes, sir, and Mr. Daniels, I've owed you an update, and I apologize for not closing the loop. So the police have made some stops, and when they went to screen at the magistrate's office for violations, the interpretation that they're getting right now is that not every one of these instances is a violation of the noise ordinance, and they're telling the officers that due to proximity to residences. So we're working with the police department right now on coming up with some potential changes to the noise ordinance that would allow them to take the enforcement action that they have attempted to take, that unfortunately they took it as far as they could, but they were not successful in getting those violations approved. So we've got a little bit of work to do to bring you guys some proposed changes that would allow this, it would allow the language of the noise ordinance to be tweaked to make this something that could be enforced by the police department on the street. No, his was specifically one of the ones that they screened. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, say that again. His was one that was cited?
No, his property was one of the ones that they used to screen the complaints against. The distance from Mr. Daniels' house across 150 to La Petite, which has been one of the problem locations.
They've been one,
Police
but
were
there's
not
been
able.
several.
I'm sorry.
There's been several businesses over there, but yeah, La Petite is the primary.
Yeah, but they were not able to obtain a violation for that address. So we're gonna bring you guys some suggested wording change that might broaden the scope of it a little bit.
Okay, just to make sure I understand though, his proximity is within the scope.
No, sir.
It is not.
His was adjudged at the magistrate's office to be outside of the distance to create a violation of the noise ordinance.
And you're how many feet away?
My guess is about 200 feet.
Wow.
Definitely very much within hearing distance. Effectively across the street.
Thank you for the update. If you wouldn't mind, keep all of us and of course, this gentleman apprised of the progress on that. And as soon as we get a draft of the changes to that, Mr. Corley, we'd be happy to consider it.
If I may ask, what is the distance that they're judging this? Because my property does actually connect to 150. So, I mean, we're literally talking 4 lanes of traffic here.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a distance certain. I think it's an interpretation on the part of the magistrate based on who's the complainant and where's the noise occurring. And it's been their evaluation that it doesn't qualify. So we need to, and they're a referee. They're calling balls and strikes based on the ordinance. So we just need to see about tweaking the ordinance and see if we can get it covered.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So I was once told by someone in this room, if you're going to complain, you might as well brag as well. So I'd like to take a minute to brag on our city and just too many people that 3 minutes of gratitude can't give. We've got so much going on in the city of Hoover right now. It's just a fun time. It's just with every event, from the sporting events that have occurred to the festivals to the parades, everything, all the events with the World Games, and so many more weeks of things to come. But one I want to take a minute to really brag on is the other night with our fireworks show. It was spectacular. 15 minutes of just pure American Pride, where thousands of people came out, covered the Met area. I don't think I spoke to one person who, other than the people who normally complain about everything, who did not really enjoy the other night. And for the cost of it, it was fiscally responsible. I think our public safety folks from fire and police really helped with the logistics. It seemed like an easy in, easy out. I don't know who did all the planning and approved all the stuff, but thank you all. And it was really a pleasure as a citizen to just go out there with neighbors and friends, some we haven't seen in a while, to celebrate freedom, to celebrate our independence when we've had a bit of a restriction and reduction on those freedoms in recent times. And for once, for a few moments, the things that divide us or the things we argue about in this room sometimes, we were all one people and we were all Americans. And we can all be proud of that and just really enjoy a few minutes together as one people, one city, and one nation. So I hope we can continue to do that, do it responsibly, no matter what next July 4th, 2023 looks like on a Tuesday. I hope we can continue to do that, enjoy that moment in our city.
Mr. Burchett, we want to be sure to attribute such kind remarks to the right person. Would you give us
Please
your
do.
name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Clint Burchett. I live on 114 Southview Drive, Hoover, Alabama 35244.
Very good. Thank you for those kind comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? It's my understanding, Mr. Corley, that the city is aware of controversies that exist concerning matters not yet litigated, but that may be litigated in the near future. And in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, it's my understanding you have an opinion perhaps on whether an executive session is proper. Could you weigh in on that, please?
Yes, Mr. Landa, I certify that it would be proper to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing legal ramifications and options for certain controversies not yet being litigated, but imminently likely to be litigated, or if the city council pursues a proposed course of action. And also, this fits within the exception under the Alabama Law Open Meetings Act for an executive session.
Members of the council, Mr. Corley has certified that this is certifiable under the Open Meetings Act. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Posey and a second by Mr. Shaw. Ms. Dickerson, please call the roll.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw? Mr. McClinton?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye. That's 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion carries to go into executive session. Ladies and gentlemen who are present tonight, this will conclude our meeting. We will adjourn and move to a separate room for the executive session. So we are adjourned.